I want to give all praise and glory to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham Ha Rakah Kwadash, double honors unto our apostle elders which rule great millstone well, and shalom to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel. May you endure unto the end. Shalom wa abba. So this is Leviticus 7. It's one of my chapters I'm reading today. And it made me think of the tribe of Gad. All right, though it was Levi, the tribe of Levi, that was the priest. All right, as we were scattered throughout the world, all right, there was certain characteristics of being an Israelite that followed us no matter where we went. Like the tribe of Gad, they kept the fringes with the ribbon of blue. You can see that in their clothing, all the way up to the Eskimos. All right, I've even seen it in the Philippines, where they have the ribbon of blue and the fringes, because a lot of those people there in Philippines are Israelites. For many generations have we been scattered throughout the world. All right. It says in Leviticus 7, all right, these are the priest part and the offering, which they're offering animal sacrifices for different reasons. And the priests, the tribe of Levi, they get a portion of certain sacrifices for food and drink, right? Which they also received clothing and money and different things like that, like frankincense and myrrh, also incense. All right, but this is the part that made me think of Dan. I'm sorry, not Dan. The tribe of Gad, not Dan. The tribe of Gad, or as it is pronounced properly, God, which are the Native American Indians. All right, Leviticus 7, verse 12. If he offer it for a thanksgiving, then he shall offer with the sacrifice of thanksgiving unleavened cakes mingled with oil, and unleavened wafers anointed with oil, and cakes mingled with oil of fine flour fried. So pretty much fried bread, right? And that popped up in my mind because, if you've ever heard or known that the natives, they eat fried bread. It's literally part of their culture, right? And I put up fried bread cultures in Google, and what it bring up, the tribe of Gad. It says fried bread is a cultural food deeply connected to many Native American Indian communities, particularly those in the southwestern and plain regions. It's flat, fried dough, often made with flour, water, salt, baking powder, and its origins are tied to the forced displacement and relocation of the tribes in the 1800s. Just like when Moses and Aaron, right, being led by the chariot, left Egypt and the Israelites followed, and which the Israelites were brought out of Egypt by Yahweh Bahasham Yahushai, which the law was given to Moses to give to the Israelites, right? So when they left during the time after Passover, they had the week of unleavened bread, which they were leaving as they were being pursued by their enemy, Pharaoh. See, so this is the story of the Bible that followed the Native American Indians wherever they went, because they are the Israelites. This is our actual heritage. All right. It says, faced with limited rations from the U.S. government, which this is prophecy too, Genesis 49, right? Genesis 49, the tribe of Gad. It says right here in tribe of Gad, Genesis 49, verse 19, Gad, a troop shall overcome him, the U.S. Cavalry, shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last, which we're in the last now. All right. And Gad is part of the elect. All right. You have 144,000 elect men out of all the 12 tribes of Israel, which been scattered throughout the world. The tribe of Judah are the so-called Negroes. Now, Yahushai, he would have came out of the tribe of Gad. All right. Yahushai, right here, who the world calls Jesus Christ, he really would have looked like a so-called black man. When he's coming back, he's going to look exactly like a so-called American Negro, which there's no such thing as a black man. All right. They're brown and there's shades of red, brown and red. All right. Even they have a saying in the world, a red bone and a yellow bone, pertaining to the different shades of brown. And I was explaining in another sit down, in Jake's family, you could have the same parents and have siblings of two different shades. One where they look like almost like a so-called white person to having a sibling of looking like a so-called black person, but they're of the same lineage. All right, so how much more when we take on the heathens women and have children with them, right? So you got Israelites that look like all people, all right, scattered amongst all nations, but salvation is only for the Israelites. All right, and the true description of Yahushua is that he was very dark, a very dark brown. All right, as a bronze that burnt in a furnace, a fine bronze that I believe is bronze. We'll see. It may have been brass. Let me make sure I'm saying it correctly. In Revelation 1, the book of Revelation is the revealing of Yahushua, the apocalypse in the Greek. Revelation 1, verse 1, and let's see. Brass. Revelation 1, verse 15, and his feet like unto fine brass, which brass is a brown color, as if they burned in a furnace, so very brown. And his voice as the sound of many waters, which he had a loud, deep voice. All right. So now going back to the 12 tribes of Israel, starting with Judah, the so-called American Negro, Benjamin, the so-called West Indian, Levi, the so-called Haitian, which make up the southern kingdom. The kingdom of Israel was divided into two kingdoms after the death of King Solomon. It says, and then the northern kingdom went into slavery first, and then the southern kingdom. All right. So we were scattered throughout the world. All right. It says, and this was for many generations, because either, fleeing slavery or enslaved and being scattered. Even today, you got Jake that are all over the world in the military, and they're able to lay their seed, right, and have children with women from all over the world, right? On the ships, I see a lot of Jake. They work on these ships that export and import, and cruise ships and all that. You don't think they're getting it in, So Jake, and that's been like that forever. Look at Joseph when he was in Egypt. He had children with an Egyptian woman, So we're everywhere. All right, but these are the main tribes that we point out according to prophecy where the tribes would be, but we're everywhere. All right. There's in Japan there's what they call Mexican culture in Japan, because those people go back to the 12 tribe sign, right? Even though they're in Japan. Those are the strangers that are going to cleave to the house of Jacob. The house of Jacob is owning up that you're an Israelite. Northern Kingdom, it starts with Ephraim, the so-called Puerto Ricans. Simeon, the so-called Dominicans. Zebulun, the so-called Guatemalans to the so-called Panamanians. Manasseh, the so-called Cubans. Gad, the so-called North American Indians. Reuben, the so-called Seminole Indians. Naphtali, the so-called Argentinians to the so-called Chileans. Asher, the so-called Colombians to the so-called Uruguayans. Issachar, the so-called Mexicans. These make up the 12 tribes of Israel which have been scattered throughout the world. And we know this according to faith in the prophecies that we were given in the Holy Scriptures. All right? And as you can see, our culture follows us wherever we go. All right? So it says, for the Native American Indians, the tribe of Gad, fried bread is more than just food. It represents resilience, culture, cultural strength, and a shared history of survival. All right. So I just wanted to share that, that we know that we are Israelites, all right, because we have faith, all right. But when you look into the receipts of these things in the flesh, you could see them. It's very clear. That's why even in the Mormon Book of Mormon, it tells you that the Native American Indians are the Israelites, right? The tribe of Gad, they don't tell you the whole specific tribe, but they'll tell you that the Native American Indians are the sons of Israel. All right. So it tells you here in the Book of Mormon, all right, it says the Book of Mormon is presented as a history of people who lived in the ancient Americas, including ancestors of some modern Native American Indians. Specifically, the book identifies a group called Lamanites as being among the ancestors of the American Indians. This connection is a central tenet of Mormon theology, though it has been a subject of debate and scholarly discussion, particularly regarding the Book of Mormon's historical and scientific accuracy and the interpretation of Lamanite identity, which we are Israelites. All right. Now they're going to lie to you and say we're Lamanites and not Israelite, okay, because they're hiding the truth. All right. Also, they're going to tell you that we were cursed because we were dark skinned. But really, they're the cursed. The so-called white people, that's the curse of Cain. All right. Cain was the first to lose his skin color and be the first red man, the so-called white man. All right. Which today is Esau Edom. Edom means red. All right. So it says Lamanites are depicted as being cursed with dark skin. But how could that be true when the Lord is a dark skinned man? And it tells you in Numbers, right? And remember, the natives were dark skinned people too. Now, once again, we're not all going to be dark, but you had tribes known as Blackfoot, all right, or even individuals known as the Black Kettle, right? Because they were so dark, they looked like they were like black, but they're just brown. They're just dark brown. All right, now let me go to Numbers. I believe it's 12. Yep, Miriam. All right, when she spoke against Moses and she received leprosy. Let me see. So right here, it says in Numbers 12, verse 9, and the anger of Yahweh was kindled against them, and he departed. And the cloud departed from off the tabernacle, and behold, Miriam became leprous, white as snow. And Aaron looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was leprous. So to be so-called white is leprosy. And Aaron said unto Moses, Alas, my Lord, I beseech thee, lay not the sin upon us. So the curse is to be so called white, wherein we have done foolishly and wherein we have sinned. It's a sin to be so called, looking like a so called white person. Now you're going to have Israelites that look like so called white people, and our sins are covered by Yahweh Shai. All right. So you don't have to worry about that if you're an Israelite and you look like a so called white person. But this identifies who's the real cursed, right? It's the Edomite who was plagued with leprosy as a mark of them being a very violent, murderous, lying, thieving bastard. All right. So I just wanted to make that point. All right. All right. So, just pointing to the fact that these Edomites, like the Mormons, right? They know the history. Look at Glenn Beck. He's a Mormon out of Utah, and he believes in that Book of Mormon, and he spoke about the Native American Indians being Israelites, speaking Hebrew. All right, and this is why he's not on Fox no more. All right, because he's pretty much being put to the back burner because he spoke out some truth, and he's a devil. He's supposed to lie. So it says Glenn Beck and how Native Americans spoke, what was it? Hebrew. All right. It says Glenn Beck and how Native Americans spoke Hebrew, Phoenician. Phoenician was the Hebrew of the Hamite. All right, like the Egyptian. All right, there's different forms of Hebrew, just as Spanish. You could go to the South Americas, from Mexico, Central America, South America, and the islands of the Caribbeans, and they're all speaking different forms of Hebrew. I've been to the islands of Philippines, and on one island they got different dialects that some other Filipino on the same island may not understand. Do you understand? So this is why Columbus came over with Hebrew translators. All right. Columbus came over with Hebrew translators because he knew that the Israelites were over here. All right. See, look, the Indians, the 10 lost tribes. See? And I mean, you can look these things up for yourself. I'm just making the point that, the only ones that don't know they're Israelites are the Israelites. And either it's they're willfully ignorant, or they've heard of it, but they're not embracing it. All right. And that's why Jacob's trouble is coming. The Lord ain't bringing peace, he's bringing a sword. And you're going to have to pick a side. You're either an Israelite or you're going to go after the Edomite and worship their false god, right, which they set up themselves as God on earth. All right. Now I wanted to get there was one more thing I wanted to get. See, it says, remember Glenn Beck, here's that time in 2010 he could prove the lost tribe of Israel built the mounds of Newark. All right. So that's what I was talking about with Glenn Beck. All right. So I'll leave it there. Shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel. Wa abba.